Hey guys, and welcome. Throughout the process of creating this YouTube channel and kind of zeroing in on what I wanted my content to be about, I've come to two conclusions. The first one is that making videos about anything depressing, disturbing, or horror adjacent brings me great joy. And the second one is that no matter what video I make, sooner or later someone will bring up the movie Martyrs in one capacity or another. Which made me think about how a movie that never really gets mentioned in mainstream horror conversation gained such a cult following. And I understand the fascination, so I present you with more picks in a similar vein. Features that never really made it to the mainstream, but because of their original idea or amazing execution, gained notoriety among people who are not really satisfied with the standard offerings. So keep watching. Since I mentioned Martyrs, let's have a chat as to why it rose to prominence. Martyrs isn't one of those movies you have to try and remember if you've seen it before, because if you have, you'd remember it immediately. Definitely a polarizing, controversial feature, even though it's not the most violent or vulgar movie I could think of. For better or for worse, Martyrs will stick with you. It's not the kind of horror movie that you casually throw on for background noise. It's the kind of movie that crawls under your skin and just stays there. It starts off deceptively simple. A young girl named Lucy escapes from a nightmare of abuse and trauma, grows up in a care home, and years later, sets out to get revenge on the people who destroyed her life. It immediately catches you by surprise, as the people she's slaughtering seem like a kind, well-adjusted family. At first, it feels like another revenge story. You're rooting for her, or at least you hope she knows what she's doing, mowing them down one by one. You think you know what kind of ride you've signed up for. But then, the movie shifts. Hard. The story you thought you were watching burns away, and what's left is something far more disturbing and far more fascinating. Martyrs takes that familiar horror setup and twists it into a brutal meditation on pain, faith, and what it actually means to transcend suffering. It's a movie that looks you dead in the eye and asks, how much can a human being endure before they reach something beyond endurance? It's violent, absolutely, but not in the cheap, shock for shock's sake kind of way. It's horror as philosophy. The violence means something. It's not there to gross you out, although it absolutely will. It's there to make you question the point of it at all. And in the strangest way, that's what many people think makes Martyrs beautiful. Having said that, I am still contemplating what camp I belong to. Is Martyrs original and well-directed? Absolutely. I did find the motivation for torture in this movie pretty interesting. We don't often expect there to be a reason for sadism or abuse, let alone a higher purpose. The ambiguous ending adds a nice touch at the end. But Martyrs is not for everyone, and it doesn't care to be. But if you're the kind of person who wants your horror to mean something, or at least attempt to linger, then this is one of those rare films you will never forget. Number 2, Inside. It's one of those horror movies that starts with something deeply human, grief, and then slowly transforms that grief into pure, unrelenting terror. It's a French horror film, which should already tell you a lot about the movie. It doesn't waste time easing you in. From the very first scene, you know you're in for something mean, claustrophobic, and unforgettable. The story follows Sarah, a pregnant woman who's just survived a car accident that killed her husband. She's alone, days away from giving birth, surrounded by silence and the kind of sadness that is just palpable. And then, on Christmas Eve of all nights, someone knocks at her door. A woman's voice asks to come in. She says she needs to use the phone. Sarah refuses, and that's when everything goes straight to hell. What follows is 90 minutes of pure nightmare. The stranger outside isn't just a random intruder. She wants something, and she's willing to carve through walls, doors, and flesh. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, to get it. Inside traps you in the house with Sarah, where every creak, every flicker of light, and every shadow feels like a threat. It's suffocating, and I have caught myself holding my breath without realizing it. But here's the thing. As brutal and bloody as Inside gets, it never feels empty. There's a sick sort of poetry underneath it all. Two women bound together by loss, pain, and desperation, clinging to what little control they have left in a world that's taken everything from them. The violence isn't just there to shock you. It's a reflection of grief so deep it's turned feral. And even though it's violent and gory, it doesn't feel over the top. By the end, you're left shaken. Not just by what you've seen, but by how intimate it all felt. It's raw, unfiltered horror that doesn't hold your hand or give you room to breathe. If you're looking for a movie that pushes boundaries, one that's as disturbing as it is strangely emotional, Inside is a must-watch. It's gruesome, yes, but it's also powerful. Number 3, Audition. Audition is the kind of horror movie that lures you in gently, quietly, politely, before it absolutely destroys you. On the surface, it's a somber Japanese drama about loneliness and longing. A widower named Aoyama is encouraged by his friend to hold a fake audition for a non-existent movie, hoping to find a new wife. The setup feels harmless enough. Awkward, a little unethical, but nothing too sinister. Although I'm sure all the women who showed up would feel extremely creeped out if they found out what the real purpose for the audition was. What do you say to the one you end up being interested in and not have her run for the hills? Anyways, our protagonist meets Asami. Soft-spoken, graceful, mysterious, kind, and beautiful. The kind of woman who seems too perfect to be real. For a while, Audition plays it straight. It's slow, delicate, and almost romantic. The kind of pacing that makes you forget you're watching a horror film at all. But that calm, that patience, is the trap. The film's final act is a brutal, hypnotic descent into madness. A sharp reminder that trust can be a weapon. What makes Audition so disturbing isn't the violence itself, though when it comes, it's shocking. It's the build-up. The slow, methodical peeling away of illusion until all that's left is the ugly truth underneath. In a way, the director makes you complicit in Aoyama's naivety. It's horrifying because it feels earned. You've spent so long believing in a fantasy that when the nightmare arrives, it almost feels personal. It's a movie about control, power, and how easily people project their desires onto others, especially women. Asami isn't just a villain, she's a reckoning. The embodiment of every hidden pain and silent rage that polite society tries to ignore. And when she finally shows who she is, it's not just revenge, it's revelation. Completely unexpected. Audition is one of those rare horror movies that's scarier the second time you watch it. Because once you know where it's headed, you start seeing all the red flags you missed. Every glance, every pause, every moment of quiet that now feels loaded with threat. It is the definition of a slow burn. If you think horror needs to be loud and chaotic to get under your skin, Audition will prove you wrong. It's calm, elegant, and absolutely merciless. Number 4, The Green Inferno. Directed by Eli Roth, it's his take on the shocking cannibal films of the 70s and 80s. Movies like Cannibal Holocaust, only updated with glossy cinematography, jet-setting activists, and a lot of satire. The setup sounds almost noble. A group of idealistic college students travel deep into the Amazon to protest deforestation and protect an uncontacted tribe from destruction. They live stream, hashtag, and perform their activism for the internet. But when their plane crashes in the jungle, they find out the hard way that not every tribe wants to be saved. What starts as a story about righteous activism turns into a full-blown survival nightmare. One that chews up good intentions and spits them out, literally. Once the group is captured, the Green Inferno drops all pretense of comfort. The violence is so explicit, stomach-turning, and sometimes so over the top, it borders on absurd. But that's the point. Roth isn't just trying to gross you out, though he absolutely does. He's making a twisted joke about modern morality. These characters came to the jungle believing they were heroes, and now they're face to face with the kind of raw brutality they thought existed only in documentaries. What makes the Green Inferno stand out isn't its gore, it's how it plays with hypocrisy. It's both a throwback to exploitation cinema and a parody of it. The students' self-righteousness, their performative outrage, all gets stripped away until only the primal fear remains. The jungle doesn't care about your good intentions, it just devours you like everything else. I have to say that there's something refreshingly honest about how unapologetic it is. If you're into horror that's as nasty as it is clever, The Green Inferno will be worth your time. Definitely an interesting watch when you think about the savior complex, performative support, or wonder about whether or not you're in the right by imposing your way of living on others. Just kidding, it's mostly blood and guts. Number 5, Antichrist. It's not just a movie. It's a full-blown psychological collapse, dressed up as art. Directed by Lars von Trier, it's the kind of film that makes people either call it a masterpiece or walk out of the room questioning your sanity for recommending it. It's disturbing, intimate, and unapologetically cruel. A cinematic breakdown that feels like watching grief itself mutate into something demonic. The story follows a couple, played by Willem Dafoe and Charlotte Gainsbourg, who retreat to a cabin in the woods after the death of their young son. The husband, a therapist, tries to help his wife work through her grief through rational analysis and exposure therapy. But logic doesn't stand a chance out there. The deeper they go into the woods, the more it becomes clear that this place, or maybe her mind, is rotting from the inside out. What starts as a quiet attempt at healing quickly turns into something far more primal. The forest becomes alive with guilt, pain, and twisted sexuality. Nature isn't healing here. It's hostile, obscene, and uncaring. Antichrist isn't a traditional horror film. It's not about jump scares or monsters hiding in the dark. It's about what happens when the monsters are already inside you, and how sometimes we consciously let them take over. It's raw, symbolic, and deeply personal. Like von Trier took his own depression and sculpted it into something beautiful and grotesque. The movie is divided into chapters, almost like a twisted fairy tale. Grief, pain, despair, and the three beggars. Each one feels like a descent into another layer of psychological hell. Gainsbourg gives one of the most fearless performances ever put on film. Her character's pain feels so real, it's almost unbearable to watch. By the time the credits roll, you won't feel scared so much as shaken. Antichrist isn't trying to entertain you, it's trying to confront you. It's about the ugliness that hides inside love, the violence buried in intimacy, and the way grief can twist reason into madness. It is brutal, stunning, and profoundly uncomfortable, and yet somehow impossible to look away from. If you think horror is about what's lurking in the shadows, Antichrist will prove you wrong. Sometimes, the real horror is sitting right beside you, whispering that maybe nature isn't cruel at all. Maybe it's just honest. And those are some of my picks for movies many would find too dark to watch, but I found valuable for one reason or another. As always, if you like the video, like, subscribe, and send me your recommendations. And as always, thank you for watching. Hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Bye.